the one thing that I think is really important is that you become a brand. And I think one of the challenges is that people don't see themselves as a brand. It's part of the issue with seeing yourself as a brand is we see ourselves with all of our real challenges, the things that we've walked through, the things that we've had to overcome, the way that we were raised, the challenges of I still wake up and I still have the same, sorry to be gross, but the same eye boogers in my eye, right? I'm still the same person, but the fact is I'm now a brand, and I'm working on a brand. When we're working on you, focusing on being an author, speaker, coach, online business, YouTuber, all the things that we want. And I like the introduction to television through using whatever platform you can. The fact is when you're working these things, with an understanding that you have to become a brand. In this day and age, you're not just a talent, you have to become a brand. You're not just writing a book, but you have to become a brand. The reason I'm asking very specific questions, okay, so is your book aligned with what your channel is and aligned with, is because I want to see that brand coming through. I want to see the same thing happening. And so, one of my brands is the Kingmaker. Well, the Kingmaker brand runs all the way through whatever that product modality is, whatever that is. When I am talking about my Barrier Buster brand, that Barrier Buster brand runs all the way through. The goal of the Barrier Buster brand is to break through barriers. I have an app to coach in your pocket. Videos are there. Everything's there. Everything you need to break out is there. Okay, so that's that brand. It's that breakout brand. The Kingmaker is a different kind of brand. It's preparing a person for their debut, their release, their revelation of who they are going to share to the world, and their brand is going to manifest. But you have to come to this conclusion where you can confidently and courageously say, I am a brand. I'm a brand. And you would have picked people snicker. They think they're a brand, but the fact is, until you get that idea, until you have that, you aren't transforming into what you want. And I don't think that the thing is if you go to, if you look at Elon Musk, we see Elon Musk in his overall himself, his personal brand. If you look at him, he's an innovator, right? But he has SpaceX, Twitter, and he has Tesla. Well, those are all three different kinds of brands. They're not the same. They are businesses of Elon Musk, but they are all in different sectors. They're not sharing the same sector. They're not sharing the same brand. They're not all Tesla, right? So the realization is, as a personal brand, he is a singular brand, which is he's an innovator, he's an entrepreneur, he's creative. He takes what people think about, dream about, and wish, and makes it happen, right? He's a force into existence, whatever you want to call that brand. My brand is I'm a communicator, so it doesn't matter if I'm in television or if I'm up in the pulpit preaching, or if I'm on the stage doing success coaching, or if I'm writing a book, or if I'm doing a YouTube channel, or if I'm doing Instagram Reels. Everything is according to my brand. I'm a communicator. I'm going to communicate. I'm going to write copy that's about communication. That's my space. But I don't have to stick to one kind of brand, in the sense that I'm going to have multiple brands. If you look at Tony Robbins is the brand. He's the results coach of the world. He's the father of results, right? So, but if you look at him, he has a date with destiny. He has, the power, unleashing the power within. These are all brands. He has a marriage brand. These are brands. And so these brands are product brands, but they're not personal brands. And so I think that there's a difference that we need to have in you have to become a brand. You have to become a brand, a manifestation of, and not a product, because you have 3-4 different products you're going to manifest. And as much as you can, build this first brand with all of these things. So when you look at my Barrier Buster, my Barrier Buster is a book. My Barrier Buster is a coaching platform. It is an app for coaches. It's a coaching developing coaches. right? It's these levels of products, but it's the same brand. But that's not, I'm not going to be typecast to Barrier Buster because I have more content inside of me. But that brand is of itself a brand, but I am the creator, right? I'm the creator. And so whatever your brand is, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are a communicator, I'm an entrepreneur, but everything I do is in communication. My new world is I'm communication and transportation. My goal is to work my life into the world of transportation as another aspect of my business. That will be a separate brand. I won't be doing Tesla cars, but I will be doing airplanes. So my brand will have airplanes, um, but that's because that's another aspect of my internal. And what I think is very important when we think about developing as a brand, if you think about Oprah Winfrey, Oprah, she started off as a singular brand, a brand of communication. Ultimately, her desire was to have a restaurant. Her desire was to start schools in international countries. Her desire were to do these other aspects, to have her own TV network. She all of that stuff was within her, but she really came out of the block as a radio host, as someone on the radio, as a communicator, as an entertainer. Really, she's an entertainer. She's someone who knows how to create moments for people, and she knows her brand. So when you see her on television back in the day and she's having you reach under your chair and she's pulling out a party, I mean, she is a party thrower. She knows how to make it happen, make people feel like they're the only person in the room. That's her brand. That's what she does. So it doesn't matter if she's now helping Dr. Phil start his own TV show. She is now bringing people to the party. Everyone's going together. She wants to go on a road trip with her best friend. The cameras are in the car. We're on a road trip. Right. She knows how to bring the party with her. Her personality is an IS. So an I is someone who loves to have everyone come along with them in the disc profile, and eyes, that person who wants to have everyone come along with her. And then the S is she wants the closest people with her. She has very tight knit, close, deep relationships. She loves that kind of, I'll use the word security, right? She loves that kind of S, that social relationship. It's deep, not a huge inner circle, but a huge world that she has a good solid inner circle, but then she wants the whole world to have a party. Well, that's the IS personality that Oprah Winfrey is. So when you understand that there is a brand, that you are a personal brand, not just a product that you're doing, right? So if I say I'm doing this, that's a product. If I do that, that's a product. That's a product brand. Those product brands will come and go. The person who started, Blockbuster, sold Blockbuster, went over and, did something else. Well, I don't know if the last person who had owned it sold it. I think there's one Blockbuster store in the whole world, and I think it's in Alaska. But when you come to this place where I'm talking about branding in understanding what you bring to the table. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm talking about communication. I'm talking about, the reason I talk so much about branding is because the external communication of who you are internally is extremely important. When God uses the word, Moses says to God, will not go unless your presence goes with me. What is Moses saying to God? God, I'm not going and taking all these people to the promised land. I don't care how much I'm an IS and I like people being with me and I want to go over there and I want to take their party, but I'm not going unless you go, your presence goes. He uses a Hebrew word, panim. Panim is the word for face. And unless your presence, it's the same word presence, but unless your face comes with me, I'm not going. And so he uses this word, I want your face to go with me. But the interesting part about panim, it's just this word face. It's not singular, it's faces, because the word panim doesn't speak of one face. It speaks of multiple faces, that God has multiple faces. When Moses said, I want to see your face, I want to see your panim, God says, I can't show you my face, because if I show you my face, my panim, my faces, then you'll die. He's not saying all faces. He's saying there's some aspects of faces that I cannot show you. I'll show you my loving face. I'll show you my kind face. I'll show you my caring face. I'll show you all these faces, but I will not show you my angry face, because in my angry face, you'll die. The point is there's multiple faces. Your kids, if you have kids, your kids know your faces. You may have a clean up the room face. You may have sit down and be quiet face. You may have, speak up face. You may have all kinds of faces. But the fact is there's only one internal soul that's expressing those faces. And so when you, going back to the word panim, he says, I won't go unless I see your faces. Panim means I'm seeing your face, but your face is expressing what's on the inside. I'm seeing intimately into you by what I see in your face. And Moses says, I can't go just because I know you're with me. I need to also know the faces, that the intimacy of who you are. I need to know the depth of who you are. I may not know who you are based upon what you tell me the title of your book is. That's only one aspect. But if I find out that you're doing a lot of different things, the realization I'm going, I understand them. I understand their intimate desires, their cravings, how they want to help people. I understand them a little bit more. And when you understand that, you're understanding more the expression, that the intimacy of what's happening in a person. So there are always going to be multiple brands. Most businesses are not. We patron one brand, like the Olive Garden, or we do that. But the fact is that company owns a lot of brands in the restaurant business, right? So their ultimate care is going to be in the restaurant business. They may break out and have another brand that's over here, that's Bahama Breeze, or Tommy Bahama has a restaurant, right? They have a restaurant, but they started off as a clothes. They may not have started off a clothing brand, but they have a clothes brand, right? Clothing brand. So when you understand that you can actually have multiple expressions of your brand, but the realization is your brand is speaking of one thing. If you think about Tommy Bahama, we are having a vacation whenever we go to Tommy Bahama. If I put on Tommy Bahama shirt, I'm having a vacation. If I go to Tommy Bahama's in Southern California, their restaurant, I'm going on vacation. The moment I walk in, well, it's not too different than Southern California, because they have palm trees on the inside and palm trees on the outside, right? So there's palm trees everywhere, but there's a feeling that I'm on vacation, because the goal of that brand is to make a person feel like they're on vacation, make them feel like they are not where they are and they have a quick escape. So I want you to know that it's extremely important that you understand your brand, and you make up in your mind, even before you figure out everything, you make up in your mind that you are a brand. You are a brand. When I work with CEOs, part of my coaching business is I work with CEOs who build companies, $100 million, $50 million, $100 million companies. They build a company, but they don't have a brand. They themselves are not a brand. They sell their company. They got a lot of money. No one knows who they are. Elon Musk has done great because he is now the face of all of his companies. It's like he is the brand. It's like if he goes, whether it was PayPal or whether it's Tesla or whatever it is, when he's a part of it, people recognize, ooh, Elon Musk is a part of it. He dipped his finger into cryptocurrency for a second, and then, turned it upside down when he said something about it, because he is a brand. He's a brand of success. So when you understand that you have to become a brand, no matter how much success you have, no matter how much money you have to become personally a brand. And when you work on your personal brand, you are going to manifest a great brand to the world. So if you start off like an Oprah Winfrey, she started off as a communicator on radio, opened up the door for television, became the first Black woman to make $1 billion, and woman to make $1 billion in television, right? So you have these things that she's cutting through, but she's really an artist and making people feel like they are connected. They're deeply feeling. She's like, if you use spiritual terms, she's pastoring America with her show, right? At least that's what they used to say about her. Going back to the original intent of my conversation today is that many people don't actually see themselves as a brand. They see themselves as, oh, I'm writing a book. I just wrote a book. That's great. But I don't want you to see yourself just as an author. I want you to see yourself as a brand, a person who's a brand, who is authoring books, right? You're an author. But you are more than an author, because that book is going to become, you're going to have a second book and a third book and a fourth book and a fifth book. And if you're successful in a book, books are going to call out for you. You're going to be more than just a book. Oh, you know what? I'm a speaker. No, I don't want you just to be a speaker. I want you to be a branded individual who also who speaks. One of the ways I express my brand is I express my brand through speaking. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach. I coach other people, and that's a part of my brand. I'm not just doing these individual, like it's not just individual one-off things. I'm actually overall a brand. And so people will want to work with you in more than they would want your product. And they will want to make sure they get every product that you have because they want to know more about you. And that's what's going to be very important. And again, it comes down to just one thought. I am a brand. I am a brand. If you can just write that down in the chat, wherever you are, just say, I am a brand. I'm a brand. I am a brand. And when you have that conclusion, I am a brand. I'm not writing a book only. A book is an expression of me. A speaking opportunity is an expression of me. A course is an expression of me. All these things are expression of me. But what I truly am, I am a brand. And we're going to help you discover your personal brand, how to break out that brand. Because when you understand that, when you understand how your brand works, when you understand that you purposely and intentionally have to buy into the fact that you are one, it doesn't happen by accident. You are purposely building a brand. And when it comes to building businesses, we just like to build businesses because we have two things in mind. If you would write these two things down, it's going to be helpful. We'll have two things in mind when we're building a business. We're building, and we probably really only have one thing in mind, but I'm going to pretend like we always have the two things in mind. One is we have income. We want to make money. We want to make money. We want to serve our community, so we'll say two. But income. The ultimate plan is not only to have income, but to also have equity, to have the ability for what I do in making income have more sustainability than just my income. Meaning I work it every week, I work it every day. My goal is not just to keep working. My goal is not just to, right? This is my personal goal. I'm not going to try to put that on him, but my goal is to actually make moments happen for other people. So I'm going to have to be free from working because I have to be able to do that at any given time. So when I realized that my brand also desires freedom, it desires financial freedom. So then I have to think more than income. I have to think equity. I have to think, how am I building this financial freedom? Where is it going to come from? So I'm starting to build out what my persona looks like moving forward. So that means everything I do has to have a sustainability piece in it. Because if I have to keep making the phone calls, and if I have to keep doing the sessions, then there's a problem. There's a problem. And again, I do sessions. I like sessions. I like connecting. I'm doing sessions with you and working with my friends. That's fun. But the fact is if it ever became a job, if it wasn't a part of my brand, if it wasn't part of my building my brand, then it's something completely different, right? So the goal is knowing who you are, knowing what's happening into you intimately, what's happening in what's intimately important to you. Is financial freedom intimately important? So beyond income, what's really important to you? And I know we're going to be altruistic because we are Christians, and we're going to say, well, I want to love the world, and I want to love the people of the world, and we're going to do all of that, and I think that's great. But the fact is there's something a lot more powerful and potent in you, which says, I want to be free, right? Or whatever it is, whatever the thing is you have an expression. If you didn't feel like people would think it was selfish, you would go, I want to be free. I want financial freedom. I want to be free. I don't want to, right? You would have this, right? You'd have these wide expressions. I don't want to have to push a time clock. I want, right? You have these things inside of you that only you intimately know. And so part of building equity, income is about what I can do today, Equity is about what I'm going to be able to do tomorrow. I need to know what is it going to afford me to do tomorrow? What am I working on this for? I mean, is it because I just want to have a ticket today and I want to be able to have something bigger and so only you know intimately what that is. Only you know the intimacy, the panim, the expressions on your face that lights you up in the heart. God picks all of his people by what lights their heart, right? What lights them up. And so when we're working with Franklin, we're talking to other people, we're working on this brand, whatever it may be. There's a quote that I think we should pay attention to for just 1 second. I know I'm in my rant. I'm so excited to talk about that. I just love it. I realized I light up when I talk about you discovering your brand. That's something that just really I don't know why it lights me. I don't really understand it, but it just like lights me up. And I just really want everyone to find out, what did God say about you before the foundation of the world? And he hid that. And only you, through the course of understanding you, can light the world up with that. And that's what I want to pull out. And so when we think about this, we think about this quote from Thomas Jefferson. I think it's extremely important quote moving forward, because I want you to think about your personal brand when we do this. So Thomas Jefferson said this: in the matter of style, swim with the current. So in the matter of style, making sure that you are in style, make sure you know what's happening in current affairs. Make sure you know what pop culture's into. Make sure you know what other people are doing. Make sure you're paying attention. In the matter of principle, stand like a rock, right? Stand like a rock. There's principle things that just should never and will never be moved. And let's talk about branding again. So we're talking about personal brand, but we're going to talk about overall branding. I think this is a great aspect of branding and scalability of your brand when it comes to principle. So if you think about common use of Uber. Uber knows that their principal part of their brand is transportation. They are all about moving items and people from one place to another. That's what it was all about. It was about the idea of moving, right? Moving, transportation. People they will need transportation from the hotel to the airport. They'll need transportation, right? When at some point, whether it was during a shutdown or whatever it may be, at some point someone said at Uber, we need to move. It could have been prior to that, but we need to now move food from one place to another, right? But it doesn't matter because it's all transportation. The principle of their brand is we transport. We transport. Now, when you realize that, it doesn't matter if they are transporting food, right? Uber Eats is a brand, or Uber itself is a brand. I don't know what their next Uber trucking, I don't know what their next thing is. But the fact is, those are brands, right? Those are brand expressions. And when you understand that those are brand expressions, but the core principle of their brand, are you catching what I'm saying? The core principle of their brand is they are transportation. They're going to be about transportation. What needs to be transported? What needs to be moved? Where you want to move it? Now they are going to be, I think a part of their brand is convenience. So maybe not a moving truck brand, right? Maybe not, because that's productivity, that's practical. I think they're convenience and leisure, in the sense that it's convenient for someone to pick you up from the airport and take you home or whatever it may be. It's convenient for someone to bring you. So I think that they're going to deal with a different level of emotion, and that they may deal with something else. So they're not going to deal with something that's going to be productivity, at least according to what I see the trend of their brand at this point. But you never know. Maybe they'll find that there's when you have a brand and you're protecting that brand, you have a tendency not to get outside of that. So when you understand that, but what's their principle? What did Thomas Jefferson said? In the matter of principle. So if I wanted to use this quote as a working quote, which I am, I'm going to take the punchline, and I'm going to move the punchline to the front and go, this is what we work on first. We work on the principle. What's the principle? We find out what matters. What's the most important thing to me as a brand? I'm going to deal with the principle. Right? So what's the most important? What does your brand stand for? What is your cause? What's your interest? What's your energy? So if we go to this idea with Uber, we'll use them as a working model for a second. When you realize that that transportation is their principle, transportation will never go away. People will always need to be moved from one level to another, one place to another place. It will always, the thing that I'm doing in television, even though people say television's out, television is never going away. We'll find different ways of watching. We'll find different ways of transmitting. But the fact is entertainment, engagement is never going to go away, right? It's not all going to become practical. People will always want that. Well, whether it's on your phone or none of that matters. You know what matters is it green eggs and ham? Okay, so I'm going to tell you my secret. If you look at my bookshelf, I have green eggs and ham. That's my top. I train sales out of green eggs and ham. So when you realize that, Sam, we're talking about only one thing, green eggs and ham. That's our product. See, and listen, doesn't matter if you eat it on a bike, doesn't matter if you eat it on a trike, doesn't matter. I'm going to keep my principle, the principal thing. But then when it comes down to it, I have other aspects that I'm able to deliver it to you. I'm not concerned whether, right? That's the style. Ooh, I'm telling you something here. This is good stuff right here. That's the style. I'm okay with changing and going with the current in my style. But the fact is green eggs and ham is what you're going to get. You're going to get it on a bike. You're going to get it on a trike. You're going to get it in the house. You're going to get it on a boat. You're going to get it in the tunnel. You're going to get it with lights on. You're going to get the lights off. You're going to, right? How are you going to eat these green eggs and ham? Because I'm serving up green eggs and ham. So having your principal thing, it makes sense. So when you start to think about your brand, what's your principal value? Let's say you decide that you want to be a Christian entrepreneur. Well, becoming a Christian entrepreneur is very different than just being an entrepreneur, because you set a certain principle that is now going to engage. You're going to engage like you're a rock, right? That's the principles are unmovable, unshakable values, right? Having those things. So when you realize who you are, what's intimately important to your core. If you take on a position, or if you go into, a business that is that is not actually a business, but it's a job that you work for yourself, you are self-employed, meaning you work every day and you're not an entrepreneur. Well, then you are stuck in a job, and your freedom core is going to yell at you. I mean, you're going to be frustrated. You may like it for a while because you don't have anyone telling you what to do, but then you have to tell you what to do, and then you don't even like yourself anymore. And so now you are a self-employed person, and you can't stand it. So the fact is this freedom cry that's on the inside. He says, there has to be a better way. Well, I really appreciate my freedom. I do. I appreciate my freedom. I appreciate team. That's why I'm a part of this team. But I'm a free team player. I'm one of those, free agent. I'm a free agent. I like being a free agent because I get to pick the team I'm going to play with, and I get to play on that team. But the fact is I'm a free agent because I like freedom. I value my freedom. So my core is always going to be, if I don't feel free in it, I don't care what it offers me. I don't care if it offers me millions of dollars. I don't care if it makes what promises it makes. If it violates my principle, which is integrity, or violates my principle, which is freedom, we're not doing it, right? Period. You're going to lose $10 million. I don't care. The fact is that's my principle. I'm not going to be stylish in that. There's no style for me there, right? So when you come to this conclusion, we're going to give you some questions here in the next few minutes that are going to help you dial in your principle, what you are, who you are, what's intimately important to you. Then the second is that, now don't think I'm just throwing these are very important. Principle is going to have two aspects. One is going to have what you find important, your core. And then number two is going to be what your client, what your audience finds important. That's going to be important. Those things have to be principled, because if you do what you like, but you also don't please your audience, and forget about it. That's never going to work, because your audience is what this is all about. Your client is what this is all about. So what matters to me and what matters to my client. That's my principle. Then it comes to style. Now that's when I can be flexible. I can now be like Uber that says, well, we're going to change. We're going to throw this thing on its head, and we're going to now give people, yes, we're going to give people an opportunity to have their own business by making an app. Well, there's the style, because everything is in apps right now. And that's what, if you want to have productivity, you want to build connectivity, you can put it on a person's phone, you can have it on an app, and it's going to create this space for them. Well, that's now style. Well, that's what caused, the style is what caused Uber to scale. Their scalability came from the fact that they were trending in a style. They actually were current, even though they were using an old principle, right? So understanding that, that's going to be important in your brand. Jesus was asked the question, he asked the question to his disciples, who do they say that I, the Son of Man, am? And there was 5 responses, and I'm going to read those 5 responses. You can write it down. In Matthew 16, he says here, verse 13, who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? So when you read that, you must see the fact that Jesus was very sure about his core brand. I am the Son of Man. There is no question about it. So when he's asking the question, in the midst of the question, he is establishing his surety of his core brand, of his personal brand. My personal brand is that I'm not here I'm not here just the guy that died for you. I'm not here the guy that's just going to get beat with rocks, right? All those things are going to happen. But the fact is I am the Son of God. That's ultimately what the goal of brand of Jesus. I am the Son of Man, right? I'm the Son of Man. I'm the one that's here to lay down my life for mankind. Well, that idea is his brand. I am that I am. This is Sam I am, right? So he's setting that so strong. And then this is the response from his closest team. Well, some say you're John the Baptist, 1. Some say you're Elijah, 2. Some say you're Jeremiah, 3. Some say you're one of the prophets, right? There, and then he has 4 responses of 4 different kinds of people, and none of them are connected to what he just said his brand is. I'm the Son of Man. Jeremiah, when's the last time you saw Jeremiah? Right? Elijah? These are so far-fetched. But this is what people are trying to make connection to. And then he says, but who in the closest proximity, who do you say I am? And if you are looking at this the way I'm looking at if the franchise model of this and the fraction of this, he has 5, there's 5 questions. Well, there's 5 responses, I should say. 4 responses of all these other aspects, which means when you have a brand, when your personal brand, your brand is probably going to speak to 1/5 of the market, right? Your brand is not going to speak to everybody, and you should be okay with the fact that my brand is going to speak to 1/5 of the market. If I'm trying to speak to Jeremiah people and Elijah people and all these other people and maybe just one of the prophets, then you're missing the fact that you're not supposed to speak to them. You're going to speak to 1/5 of the market. When you speak to 1/5 of the market, that's when you understand. Now, I want to speak to 80% of the market. Well, let me tell you something. 80% of the market is going to be billions and billions of people. There's very few people that are reaching billions, right? There's very few. There's possibly some that are actually reaching as customers. I mean, there's people that are paying, billions of people paying attention to individuals, but actually becoming their client and their customer is probably not that big. So when you realize you can do what you need to do with reaching millions, hundreds of thousands, right? You can do what you can by actually what you want to do and becoming a millionaire or billionaire by reaching 1 million people, right? So your 1/5, you have a very high chance of a 1/5. Come on now, brand people. You have a very high chance of a 1/5. When you realize that 1/5, when the Bible says that they came out of Egypt, there's a scripture that says that they came out in 1/5. They basically came out in as a hand. They came out as one aspect of a hand. You need to know when there's someone breaking out of something, there's only 1/5 will recognize that they need to leave. They're leaving something. They're trying to get free. The rest are going to be okay with Egypt. So you're going to have to actually be like, okay, I'm not trying to reach everyone. My brand is very esoteric. My brand is very specific. And the more specific my brand is, the more I'm going to have a greater result in that 1/5. right? So Jesus found that there was a 1/5. What's really interesting, in that 1/5, there was even just a 1/12, right? Peter was the only one that the Father spoke to, that he said he was the only one that spoke up. And so the fraction can get a little bit deeper, but Jesus, he put his whole future on. He says, Peter, you're the one that I'm building my church on. Not John the beloved who's fallen asleep and loving on me. And right, you have to understand that this is important, that you identify to the deepest core level the people that want you, your brand. And when you do that, when you know that, and you allow everyone to have their opinions and everyone to have their ideas and their attitudes or whatever they have, you're going to be okay. Right? You're going to be okay. So I'm going to go past all of that, because that's one of my favorites when we're talking about brand. So Jesus knew his brand, but he still asked the questions for feedback. And that's important, that you're going to ask these questions of yourself for feedback. So I'm going to give you a few questions. Number one, branding is important. The word branding is a kind of or a variety of something distinguished by some distinctive characteristic. When you're branded, you're distinguished by some distinctive characteristic. Distinguished means you're set apart, you're separated. I can't help but drive this point. I have to drive this point with you. Don't just simply try to shotgun the world with your message. Don't simply try to shotgun this, right? That's why when you go and you're preparing your book and you're preparing your book title, spend the time keyword searching. Spend the time making sure that you understand the exact title that's going to capture the heart and the mind of the fish, right? Don't just try to hit everybody, hit the specific individual. I'm working very diligently now, even on something that I'm working on. It's first time I did it was great, but my shotgun, it was too wide of a shot, and so I got every kind of person, and now I'm frustrated with the people, and they're frustrated with me possibly, and now I've got to close in, because the more focused we get, the more closely knit we get on that, what that distinction looks like. That's what that distinguishing looks like. That separator. The more it's going to be 100% results. I don't want to have small results with the people I'm working with. I want to have high level productivity. So if you come to me and I say, listen, you're going to write a book in 60 days. I want you to come in ready to write a book. I'm just using that example. Or we're going to make you $1 million in the first year, whatever it is. I want to really be able to have people who have that as their goal, and they're willing to put the work in. Well, that means I've got to become more distinguished by some distinct characteristic to attract them. So it's important that your personal brand will help you attract or repel. Now, you've heard me say this before, and I'm going to keep saying it, because when it comes down to it, we don't like to be rejected. Most of humanity hates when people don't like them. And you're going to have to put on some scales. You're going to have to put on some oil, let it all run down, because the fact is they're not hating you personally. They don't know you intimately. They see your face, but they don't see your intimacy. Right. And so they're not rejecting you. They're not going, I don't like you, Tracy. No, they're not doing that. What they're doing is that product is not what I have taste buds for. And that's okay. That's fine. If I'm eating with you and you don't want to eat what I want to eat, and we're going to try to we'll run into each other later. I'm going to go and have Chinese food. You're going to have whatever you're going to have. We'll meet together, or we'll compromise and we'll go, okay, where can we go that we can both get appetite? The fact is everyone lives based upon an appetite. And the people that are going to read your book have an appetite already. And you can't, the days of convincing a person of their appetite is over. You're going to have to fish with that appetite. I know I keep saying it over and over. It's because I want you to be skilled in it. I want you to be skilled in this, and understanding that its repetition is not because I don't really remember what I said. No, repetition is for the sake of you being skilled in this and going back to the drawing board if you have to, and rewriting the title of your book. Rewriting it and going to Amazon and typing your title in and seeing what comes up. seeing who's biting, what kind of fish pond are you in, going into Google and going into these other search engines and making sure, going to YouTube and seeing what other people are searching for. What are they asking? What questions are they asking? What problems are they telling you that they have in these search engines? They're telling you when you type in, we went through that already. When you type in that toolbar, they're telling you, these are the problems I have. So if your title doesn't actually fit their problem, then you're not fishing well. You're going to be sitting in the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Right? You need to, no, we want to catch fish. We want to catch fish. We want to actually catch them and scale them and not cut them open necessarily, but we want to clean them and we want them to produce and be successful. So when you realize that this is going to be important, that you become this individual. Okay, so write a couple questions down. A couple questions for you. Number one, what or who do you want to attract? Kind of identify that person. And I'm going to go through these quickly because I don't have a lot of time. Write down number two, what or who do you want to repel? Don't skip that. You want to turn people off and you want to know who they are. You want to know who they are. You want to know exactly who your customer is not. Then you want to make yourself known by a certain skill. That's the next part of this project. The next part of this project is I'm going to make myself known by a certain skill. The reason Nick asked me to come on the team was because he knows me by my speaking on stages. Well, he's worked with me. I've worked with him, and he knows me by my coming on stages. Well, that's why I'm here. It turned out that I didn't work out on the stage for other reasons, but the fact is I still want to be on the team, so that's why I'm still doing this. So the fact is you have to know and be known by your skill. Be known by your skill. Make yourself known by your skill. What is that? What is the skill? You have to ask yourself that question. So what is the skill that you want to be known by? I am a speaker. That's not people know me as a speaker. People know me as a worldwide communicator. I communicate over 50 countries. But the fact is my new brand is I want to be a media mogul. I want to be not someone that's just speaking, but I want to have, my thing is about being a media mogul and an aerospace entrepreneur, right? Those are the two new brands. I'm working on those. Those are brands. Guess what I'm doing? I'm developing who do I want to attract, who do I want to repel. I'm developing these things. I'm already branded as a coach. I'm already branded in these other spaces, but I want to be branded in these other levels. And so I'm working on that. But personally, I'm a communicator and I'm into transportation. Those are the two things, and those are the two businesses that I still function in. All right, so make yourself known by a certain skill. What is that skill? Then the next thing is find your style and build your brand upon it. Now find your style. Remember, style is what scalability. Style is where you have it on a boat, where you have it right, and then build your brand upon it. So I express it boldly. Part of your personal style, if I can just give you some ideas, part of your personal style is what is your leadership style? You need to understand, if you're leading a team, what is your style? My style is not the same as everyone else's leadership. I have what I call a quiet leadership. There's a whole training of quiet leadership. Quiet leadership is not that I'm quiet and don't say anything, but I ask a lot of questions to pull the best out of my team. So I don't tell my team what to do, but I ask probing questions and cause them to respond. We saw quiet leadership in Jesus when he said, who do they say that I, the Son of Man, am? He didn't lead with saying, I'm the Son of Man, but he says it's poised in a question to cause his team to listen, his team. So I know that about my leadership. I'm not the direct kind of overbearing leader. I want us to be on the team together. I want us to win together. I want us to do life together. I'm not the hire you and fire you leader. That's not my style. So, but I have to know that about myself. I have no problem firing people, but I have my thing is slow to hire and quick to fire, but I am extremely loyal. I have a loyalty which means I'm going to spend time coaching, training, teaching, and mentoring a person before I feel like that they're just not valuable to the team, because it could be me as leader that I didn't actually coach, train, teach, and mentor them, or they actually are in the wrong spot, right? I've had to move people and cross laterally move people. So I'm not just trying to fire them, but I'm looking for the best place for them, because character wise and loyalty and certain aspects of them is the reason I picked them for the team, right? So that's my kind of leadership. You have to know your style. Sorry to get in my leadership. Sorry to do that, but I wanted to. That's kind of your know your style in leadership. Or another question is, how are you memorable? What do people remember about you? When they see you again for 10 years later or 5 years later, oh, your hair is different. I remember you had this kind of hair. Or, your Barbara Streisand. We remember her by her snozzle, right? That's her words, right? But she is not hiding that. She's not trying to walk around with a veil. She is actually showing and allowing it to be memorable, allowing it to be unique, and is one of the things that but what is memorable about you? The way you talk, the voice, your cadence of your voice. There's certain actors that we really enjoy because of the way that their voice, the cadence of their voice, or the depth of their timbre of their voice. And right, there's aspects of them that they're memorable, right? There's something that's very memorable about them. And so when we understand what's memorable about you, what's memorable about you, what's your swag, right? What's your thing that's going to make me remember you, right? Then how could you be more memorable? That's a good question to ask yourself. Okay, so if I come into a room, what could I do that in that room that would make me more memorable, that would be with my brand, right? So, let's go back to Oprah Winfrey. We're dealing with her a lot today. When you realize what made her memorable, you had Sally Jesse Raphael, you had Maury Povich, and all these other daytime kind of talk show host people, and yet Oprah Winfrey, she takes off. Why? It's because she has these eventful things that took place. Today, we're giving away a car. I think that I remember something like that. She was giving away. There's always these giveaways. What did she do? She did something that separated her from the rest, and she became memorable based upon it. So what you want to do in your brand, you want to make sure that people remember you. You want to make sure that you're doing memorable things. And, so when I go into a room, let's say if I were at the mastermind, don't sit in the corner. Don't sit in the corner. You want to be memorable. So you want to get in there. You want to shake hands. You want to introduce yourself. You want to have a nice firm grip, right? You want to make sure that you're pleasant. You're smiling. Oh, you remember that one? They're always smiling. That one that's always smiling. That person's always smiling, right? The other person, whatever that is, whatever way you want people to remember you. Not like, oh, that person that's so obnoxious. I mean, if that's your character, if that's what you want to be, if you're Kramer from Seinfeld and that's your thing, then that's what you're going to be remembered by. Remember, that's what makes you memorable. Then you work that. Just make sure you have a good way to make it produce in your brand later on, because otherwise you will be obnoxious. So you want to make sure that you think about being memorable. That's that part of your brand, which is important, which is, what is your leadership style? What makes you memorable, and how could you be more memorable, right? The next thing I want you to think about, in my next 2 minutes. Oh yeah, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. I have a lot more, but I'm asking at least these 2. What specific problem do you solve? What problems do you solve? That's important. That's the big one. What is my cause? What do I do? What am I doing for my client? What is important to me, and how is that important to my client? That's the principle of the matter. So when you realize these are my specific problems, I have this problem and I want to solve this. I solve this problem. I have the solution. I solve this problem. And then you can drill down and go, who do I solve that for? What kind of client has that kind of problem? So when you realize I have a solution, that I solve problems in this area, then I'm going to find that client, and I'm going to make sure that I am able to match that. Then I'm going to give you these last ones, the last question. I'm going to give you 2 more. What is unique about you? What's your uniqueness? What is your unique standout thing? So again, Whoopi Goldberg, her dreads. I think she had dreads. And then you have, Barbara Streisand, her snozzle, and you know, Cher. I mean, Cher was able to make, right? She made it work, right? So the fact is, you have people who have curly hair, you have people who have long shapes, you have people who have round shapes. Make it all work. And what we end up doing, and this is what I want to leave you with, what we end up doing is we end up hiding our uniqueness, which then destroys our brand. And if I can encourage you at the end of this video is to make sure that if you're unique in any way, do not hide it. Don't be embarrassed by it. Don't be insecure about it. Don't you dare try to change it. If there's something that really affects you emotionally and you have to change it, then you can deal with that. But if you know how to take that and make it work as a brand, make it work as a part of that distinct uniqueness. There's so many actors that are so distinctly unique. They never fixed their teeth. They never did certain things. They never, Brad Pitt never fixed his scar, right? These things are unique about, it gives him that thing, right? These things are unique about these individuals, and they don't get rid of it because it is the thing that people talk about. Why hasn't Brad Pitt fixed that scar? He has so much money. Why hasn't this person fixed their teeth? They have so much. Because the fact is that characteristic is the flaw of uniqueness that separates them from everyone else. So when you understand that you have to have a uniqueness, and sometimes uniqueness in the minds of other people are a flaw until you know how to make them your uniqueness. You understand? So when you hide it and you pretend like you don't have it, or then this is important, that when you go, I'm hiding this, I'm pretending like I don't have it, you're missing the fact that God very possibly gave you that big, brilliant bundle of fiery red hair on the top of your head for a reason, because it's the unique flair that we need, right? Carrot Top, right? There's uniqueness that you need to pull and use it. And if you pay attention to what happens in Hollywood and television, that's my space. When you pay attention, everyone in Hollywood is using whatever they can to actually have that edge. If you blend in, if you become like someone else, if you all of a sudden go and do your face because you want to look like Angelina Jolie, you have dropped, because we already have an Angelina Jolie. We needed your face, right? We needed you. And so when the thing is, when you're not insecure, or you fight through the insecurity, and I'm telling you, get with God, people, pray and say, God, I feel insecure about this unique story that I have. I feel insecure about this thing, my story. Like, you're writing a book. I feel insecure about it. It's you walked it through, you went through it, you dealt with all of these issues. And sometimes people just want to go, I'm gonna pretend like it never happened. And the fact is there's 1/5 of people out there that need to know exactly what happened and how you got through it, because that's what they're going through, and that's how you're going to help them. So there you are. Tracy Armstrong, helping you with your personal branding, your personal brand. You are a brand.